Hi, my name is Joy Turnbaugh, and I am the Chief Operations Officer at Principia College. I'm here today to present to you our COVID-19 training. So the first thing we're going to look at is risk mitigation. So what is risk mitigation? This is all the things that we can layer and upon layer, all these different things that we can put together to help protect ourselves from COVID-19. So in addition to our prayers, we are going to be wearing a mask, and we're going to be socially distancing, and we're going to be washing our hands and keeping spaces clean, all these different things, right? So you can see by this little chart, and I have a little pointer here I can use. This little chart kind of goes through the risks and what is risky behavior and what is not so risky behavior. So if we keep our social distancing and we all wear masks, then there's a very low risk of transmission. So this is what we're looking at achieving. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to look at is how to wear a mask, what to do, and a little bit of what not to do. So you can see the picture down there in the corner of your screen. Here's a mask. Here's how we wear it. It fits snugly, comfortably against the side of your face. It should be secure. We have little loop ties. This mask has 3 layers. So the mask that we're going to be providing to you will have 3 layers. And there are some ways that you want to wear it, and there are some things that you don't want to do. So this is the proper way to wear it. Let's see, this is not the proper way to wear it. So we do want to make sure that you need to cover your nose when you are, so when it's down here below your nose, that doesn't work. It needs to cover your nose to be effective. And you should not wear it like this. This is not the proper way, or this, or down here. This is not the proper wearing of a mask. It needs to be covering your mouth and your nose. And so the other things that are not acceptable ways of masks is this, covering up your face with your clothing. This will not be an acceptable mask to wear around school. The other thing you cannot do is one of these, where you tie your thing tight like this. This is also not an acceptable mask wearing technique. So we would like you to have a mask with you and put it on properly and wear it in all the locations that it will be required. So that is how you wear a mask. You do the donning and doffing by holding on to the edges here. And so you put it on over your ears, and then when you take it off, you're only moving the straps. You're not touching it constantly where your mouth and your nose are. So hopefully that helps you understand how to wear a mask. So next we'll be talking about what Principia is providing to you. And we will have pictures inserted in this presentation that actually show you a copy of what you will be receiving as far as a mask. And we also have signage all over campus. So you'll be seeing that in this presentation instead of these little spots that just say insert picture here. So next we're going to talk about physical distancing and what we should be doing when we're physically distancing. We want to make sure that how to physically distance, what that means. It means keep 6 feet away, 6 feet between you and the other person. So maybe 3 feet from you and 3 feet from the other person. That means that there's 6 feet between you. So we also want to make sure that people know that if they're shopping, they need to, go at times that aren't as busy if they can. So just a note that students will not be allowed to go off campus when we're in our initial 2 periods of time, which will be red and orange. Once we get to the yellow stage, you will be allowed to go off campus. And we just want to make sure that when you do go off campus that you are following all the social guidelines and protocols that we would want of you on campus. The same goes for when you're off campus. All right, so the other thing that we are doing is providing all of the signage, and you will see some signage. I know my little screen here is possibly covering up some of the signage that will be available, but you will be seeing the signage, and so wherever you see the social distancing signs, you want to make sure that you are abiding by those. That'll be places like standing in line to get into the scramble room. When you're in the scramble room getting your food, there will be places where you can stand. Should you go down to the security desk, there are going to be places, or the mail and copy center. You will see signage on the floor, and especially in the athletics area, they have signage on the floor that shows exactly how far apart people should be. So please abide by those social distancing guidelines. So cohorting, what is cohorting? Some people define it as bubbles. It is really just separating people out into different groups so that you have a select number of people who you're maybe eating with and who you're going to class with, and maybe it's people who you live with. So we actually would like to have the houses be cohorts so that you have a group of people who you can do things with. And why are we doing this? So to understand the why behind it, cohorting minimizes transmission, or the possibility, reduces the number of people who you have close contact with. So I think this is important to understand, and I'm going to turn off my video thing here. No, I don't think I can. Let's see. Ah, okay. Okay, so cohorting, it will minimize the number of individuals likely to get caught up in contact tracing. So, what is close contact? Actually, close contact is 15 minutes having a conversation with somebody without a mask on and without social distancing. So that means you're in a space with somebody without that mask and, talking to them for 15 minutes or longer. So, a lot of times people will just pop into my office and we start chatting, and, we think, I'm sure that the person who's popping in thinks it's just going to be a 5-minute conversation, and it ends up being, 45 minutes and we're still standing there talking. So my suggestion would be, if you get into any kind of conversation after, 5 minutes, put on your mask, because you never know how long it's going to take to have that great catch-up conversation with somebody. And that's totally off topic because we're talking about cohorting. So there will be signage everywhere that talks about what's allowed and what isn't allowed. And then there are rules that we have set in place. So like the houses, we're allowing the houses to cohort, which, what we're doing to help enforce that is there won't be any visitors allowed in the houses. And that will be when we're in our red time frame. Then visitors will be allowed in to the houses when we are in our orange mode, and so that will be visitors that are allowed into a rec room, but you still will need to put a mask on because they are not part of your cohort. And then of course we're not allowing any visitors from off campus, so they're not allowed on campus anyway, but they're definitely not allowed in the houses. And this is specifically for the dorm houses. Now, if you're a faculty member and you live on campus, then there are slightly different rules that apply. And I will have to check on what those rules are, so we make sure that we explain that very succinctly in this training video. Now, talking about hygiene, these are just kind of your standard practices. We want you to wash your hands, so you could wash your hands before you eat. You could wash your hands. don't have that slide. Interesting. Okay, so you should wash your hands before you eat. You should wash your hands after you eat. You should wash your hands after you use the restroom. There are just some really basic times that you should try to wash your hands. And then our next standard practice is not touching your eyes, mouth, or nose. So this is not an appropriate thing to do, especially without a mask on. And even if you have your mask on, then definitely you shouldn't be doing it. And if you're touching your face, then that's probably not the appropriate thing to do. And it's all the oil. You know, your mother always said, don't touch your face. So there was a reason for that. You could have a pimple breakout, but you could also just spread yucky germs everywhere, because who knows where those hands have been, right? All right. What else should you do to keep yourself hygienic? We suggest that you take a shower. It's not even a suggestion. It would be kind of important thing to do. Keep yourself smelling good. And you should also wash your clothes, and probably your bedding and your towels and everything that goes along with the clothing that you are wearing and touching on a daily basis. So you don't have to wash your clothes daily, but it would be good to wash your clothes before you wear them again, something like that. And at least once a week, do some laundry, wash some bedding, wash your towels. And so you guys are going to do all that. You're going to wash your hands, not touch your face. What are we doing? We're going to remind you. We're going to provide signage so that you remember to wash your hands. And we're going to provide hand sanitizer at all the building entrances so that you can sanitize if you have forgotten to do all these other things. So the hand sanitizers actually are located inside each building. So as you walk in through a building, look around for the hand sanitizer. It may be attached to the wall. It may be a freestanding device that's sitting there. So look around, find that hand sanitizer, familiarize yourself with the hand sanitizer locations, and use them. So what do you do if you're not feeling well? Well, you need to check in with somebody. So you're going to check in with your RC. If you're an employee, you're going to check in with your manager. If you're a student and you're really not feeling well, we want you to check in with Cox Cottage. They can actually, the nurses there, and Emma Flavin, she's awesome. She can check in with you and just kind of run through how you're feeling and see if there's anything more that we need to do. So for employees, if you're not feeling well, we appreciate you just stay at home. And these are little pictures of all the little things that could go wrong with you, but basically, if you're coughing or sneezing or throwing up or anything like that, we would appreciate you staying at home. And for the students in the dorms and in the houses, we would appreciate you checking in with your RC, and then you're going to check in with Cox Cottage. So what are we doing, Principia? We are embracing everybody in this community to meet you where you're at. So I think that's important. The treatment choice is absolutely out there and available. You do what you need to do to take care of yourselves. And I think that that's really important for everybody to understand, that there's no judgment here. If you're not feeling well, we would like to know about it. We want you to not feel weird about not telling us and not talking to somebody about it. And you get to choose what your treatment is. So we are going to make Gainer available to students who are experiencing COVID-like symptoms. So that location will be, a special place for people to go if they're really not feeling well and they have some of the symptoms of COVID. And that is why you're checking in with with Cox Cottage, is so that you can check in with the particular symptoms that are associated with COVID. And then Emma will make the determination, or one of the nurses there will make the determination as to where you need to be. Okay, so we're going to learn some new vocabulary here. Isolation versus quarantine. Isolation is for people who have COVID-like symptoms, who really aren't feeling well with those particular symptoms. Quarantine is something where you have been in contact with somebody who has COVID-like symptoms. So let's just say that you're in the dorm and you have a roommate, and when we say in contact with, that's that close contact, meaning 15 minutes more conversation without a mask and within 6 feet, so that's your close contact. So those people will be quarantined. So if you have a roommate who is not feeling well and ends up in Gainer because they have COVID-like symptoms, we're going to ask you to quarantine in your room. So you can quarantine in your house, in your location. And when you do that, I mean, you are doing as much as you possibly can to isolate yourself from, well, isolate's not a good word to use, to separate yourself from all the people who are living in that house. So you're just ensuring that you're not eating with, and I think possibly we would maybe set up some signage so that people know, so they don't come into your room and try and have a conversation with you. You can certainly participate in your classes. You can call in, let your teachers know that you need to know what the homework is, all of that. We certainly expect you to continue with your classes and your studying. And we would just ask that you don't go to, the dining hall, and you don't go to the classrooms, and that you keep yourself in that quarantine state for 14 days so that we make sure that you are not symptomatic. Your other alternative is you could take a test if you want to. Tests are totally, they're definitely not mandatory. They're, what is the word? They are voluntary. So if you choose to get a COVID test and show that you're not, that you don't have it, then you can do what, you can go about your day and go back to class and that sort of thing. So where are we in our phases? We have 5 phases here in Illinois. And so we are currently in phase 4, which means that the state is allowing gatherings of up to 50 people. The questions came up of how did we get here? And we got here from phase 3 to phase 4 because we had a low percentage of new cases, and they also are able to maintain that the hospital capacity. So that's one of the things that they're looking at is, are we able to maintain enough beds available at hospitals so that, and actually they have a percentage here, 14% of the ICU beds are still available. Now, if we were to and go back to, if they had to move us from phase 4 back to phase 3, it would be because we saw a sustained rise in positivity rate, meaning there's more cases per day, sustained increase of hospital admissions, the capacity of hospitals is diminished, or if there's one region that has, a big outbreak, then they would move Illinois back to phase 3. From phase 3 to phase 5, that is really going to be post-pandemic. That is when there's a vaccine available, there's an effectively and widely available treatment, or there's really just been an elimination of new cases over a period of this long period of time. So that could happen. Herd immunity is actually a new term that I just heard today. And herd immunity is, like a group of people who haven't gotten it. So I think Principia could definitely be in that herd immunity group where we have all people who don't get sick. So what is expected of you when you come back to campus? We would like you to sign an agreement that is all in at PRIN agreement, and you're going to wear a mask. You're going to physically distance whenever possible. If you develop symptoms, if you're not feeling well, we want you to let us know. And then also we want you to know that visitors aren't going to be allowed on campus. When we are in the first couple phases of, so basically when students come back to campus, once we start in August 31st, we want a period of time, that 14 days, where we don't have any cases. So we want everybody to just be very mindful of everybody who they're coming in contact with and who they're touching and who they're socializing with. And we want you to wear your mask, and we want you to socially distance, so that first 14 days is really kind of the critical time where we can make sure that everybody is healthy and we stay healthy, because our goal is to open safely and stay open. So in order to stay open, we need to make sure that we don't, if somebody does get sick, that it's not spread throughout the campus. So that we contain it, we manage it, and everybody else on campus stays safe. So that is the goal. We do reserve the right to make changes to our policies, because if we recognize that things are not working in what we have established and set up, then we will make adjustments. So we are setting up all kinds of things. This is our campus upgrades. So we do have barriers that have been installed in the mailroom and dining services and the library. And eventually we will have some pictures of those items that I can put in here. And we will also have hand sanitizer stations that have been installed. All the residents, all the entrances that you go into, you're going to have access to hand sanitizers everywhere you go.